Beautiful. And once we can display two types of products, one in list view and one in grid view, now I want to work on a sort. Why? Well, because it's going to have a lot of functionality that is similar to the filters, but it's not going to be as extensive. So, in my opinion, we're going to get a good taste of what's to come, but we're not going to be overwhelmed. And by the time we get to the filters, we should be already familiar with everything that we're going to do. And I think it's just going to be easier to understand since, again, it's not that the functionality is complicated in filters, it's just a lot of it. Okay. Hopefully that is clear. And what we're looking for is the component of sort. And in there, we'll place two buttons. So these will control the view. Then we'll display the paragraph that just says how many products we currently have. And notice as we'll be changing the filters, this value will also change because, of course, we'll be just checking for the length of the filtered products array. And then lastly, we have a sort select input where, of course, we can sort the current products, whether by price, by name, and hopefully you get the gist. So let's navigate to that component. And yeah, I think I'm going to start over there. We'll just navigate to the component. And eventually, in future videos, we'll set up some new state values as well in the filter context. For now, I would just want to work on return. And then slowly but surely, we'll add the functionality. So I have my sort component. So in here, of course, I would want to have access to the filter context. That's why I have imported the hook. And also I have two icons because there's going to be two buttons, one for grid view and then one for list view, as well as the styled component for the styling purposes. So start with my wrapper here. And then as far as what values am I looking for from the filter context, well, I'm going to start with filter product as well as the grid view. Now there's more things coming, but for the time being, that should do it. So again, we're going to go with filtered and then underscore product. And right away, let's give it an alias of product, which is going to be easier. And the second thing is the grid view, because I would want to check what is the current status of the grid view. Is it false or is it true? And we're going to set this equal to a use filter context. We will invoke it. And then inside of this wrapper, let's just start by setting up our buttons. So in the wrapper, I'm going to go with the div with the class of btn container. And then inside of this container, there's going to be two buttons. Now, eventually they both will have on click. So of course, we'll change that view, the property essentially in our context. But for now, I would just want to control the class name because we need to understand that both buttons, yes, will have the same class, but the active one will have different colors. Notice here how the background is black and then the color is white. Well, of course, that is going to be for the active class. And if you want to check out the class, just keep on scrolling. Notice here, I have button container. I have the button. So these are just going to be the general styles. And then for the active one, notice how the values are a bit different. So let's start here in the button container where I would want to first display the button and I'll just add a type here. Type is going to be equal to a button. And as far as the class name, well, it's going to be styled right away, but we'll control the active one. So both will be styled the same way regardless, but depending which one is going to be active is going to have that class name of active. And in the first one, we'll pass in this one, the bootstrap fill grid fill. So this one, and let me just type correctly. So this is going to be the icon that will display in the first one. And let me copy and paste. And the second one will have different value. Of course, this is going to be just a list. So bootstrap and then the list. So these are my two icons. Again, the moment we can click all day long and nothing is going to happen. What I would want to do, though, is add that active class dynamically, depending on what is the value for the grid view. And this is going to be different for each of the buttons. So let's just go here with a class name. And I still would want to add this, of course, dynamically. That's why I'll have my expression I'll go to the template string here and I'll say if the grid view, so the property that is coming from the state, is true, then of course I would want to add the active class to my button, correct? So say if grid view is true, then add the active class. If not, well, then just add null. So then I won't add the active class. Now, for the second one is going to be a little bit different because I would want to add the active class if this is false. And the way we set this up, simply say that if grid view is false, then we'll have the active class. So now you'll right away notice that since the grid view is true, the first one has the active class. Again, if you want to test it out, navigate back to the filter context and add false. Of course, we'll change this value dynamically, but for time being, you can see that since grid view is false, now this one gets the active class. So go back to true and back in the sort component right after the div or container, I would want to set up my product. So display how many products I have currently in my filtered products. So there's going to be a element, the paragraph element, and we'll simply say products length, products and then length, and we'll just say products and found. We save it, and it should tell us that we currently have 17 products. Of course, as we'll be filtering, of course, this value will change. Then we're going to have the horizontal line. And then, of course, I would want to set up my select. Again, at the moment, no functionality, just some kind of UI. And we're going to go with form. Now, there's no action. We don't care about that. And then inside of this form, let's go for label. Now, we will add HTML4 attribute. And since I know that ID is going to be sort, I'll set the value to sort. And we'll say sort by. And now we just need to set up our select. So let's go with select. As far as the name, I'll set it as sort. And this is extremely important because later we will depend on that value. So make sure it is sort. And as far as ID, we'll stay with the sort as well. Now, at the moment, it won't be controlled input. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. Eventually, yes, there's going to be a value and on change. For now, I would just want to add the class name of sort hyphen input. And then inside of it, let's add 4 option elements. So the way we set it up, we go with option and then what is going to be the value. And again, this is important that use the same naming. So I'm going to go with price lowest, and the text is really up to you. As long as the value matches exactly what I have, you'll be in good shape. And here I'll just say price and then the parentheses, and we're going to go with lowest like so. So I'm going to copy and paste. There's going to be 4 of them. And the second one will be price highest. So say highest like so. That's going to be my text. Then I'm going to go with the name. And I'm just going to say name hyphen A. That means starting from A to Z. And then, of course, there's going to be name Z. That's just going to signal that we'll sort by the name starting with Z and then all the way to the A. Now, I do want to change my text as well. So here, of course, it's not going to be lowest anymore. We're going with the highest. And then as far as the text over here, of course, it's going to be name. And we're going to go with A to Z. And the last one, you guessed it, is just going to be name. And we're going to be looking for Z to A. So let's change this one around. And we should have the select. Again, nothing is happening at the moment. We just display the select input. That's all. And once we're done with simple UI setup, of course, now we can start slowly adding functionality.